Hello everyone, it is a very exciting day as Kerbal Space Program 2 has just received approximately 300 changes in its first patch, and a lot of people have asked me what my thoughts were on this. Well, obviously, I am thrilled to hear of any steps towards making KSP 2 less broken, and I thought I'd start off with this footage of me flying around the Kerbal Space Center while in space, not only because this bug is and was hilarious, but it's also one of the things that has been purportedly patched out. I would highly encourage you to check out the full patch notes, link in the description, as the list is so long and extensive, I have absolutely no chance at covering everything in this one video, though creative director Nate Simpson did state in the gigantic patch notes that this update does not fix every single bug, but rather represents the first step in an ongoing process of improvement that will continue throughout early access. I think the single biggest fix that was really holding up a lot of players, including myself, back from really enjoying the game and exploring the Kerbal system was the fact that we couldn't see our trajectory past another celestial body, only the entry and exit points marked out by these glowing blue circles, which weren't really that helpful. We can all now breathe a collective sigh of relief and a great big cheer as this now appears to have been fixed. No more having to guess things, we can see our orbital trajectory. We can also now click our orbital markers, for example our periapsis, and make the readout stay in place on screen without needing to constantly mouse over it, which is an extremely welcome quality of life update. The list of bug fixes is very long, but to give you some highlights, aside from the ones I've already told you about, other bugs that have been squashed are the disappearance of orbital trajectories after loading a saved game, an issue where some parts appear to remain connected to or just follow the vessel after detachment, a loss of vehicle control after undocking, stack decouplers operating as if crossfeed is active even when the parts manager shows crossfeed is disabled. I had this happen in my recent Val mission, where my lander's fuel was drained by the lower stage of the rocket. Also fixed is the bug where engine thrust was being deflected at too high of a value if the engine's exhaust was occluded. Great for aeroplanes, as now this doesn't happen, but also bad, because this also means that the Kraken drive that I used to build my lathe SSTO no longer works, though I suppose that is for the best, and we'll figure out another Kraken drive at some point, I'm sure. Maneuver plans have been shown some love as well. Before, if the node was several days away, the countdown time would just count down over and over and over until you were just on the same day as the node encounter, as seen in this pre-patch footage. But now, the maneuver node has a countdown display for days. Hooray! Another nice change is that we can now have unlocked time warp in the tracking station. Here I am in low Kerbin orbit, so I don't have access to the faster time warps, but pressing escape and pressing Kerbal Space Center frees up all of the other time warp nodes, and going into the tracking station we still have full time warp, so no longer any need to launch a new rocket and set it as your controlled spacecraft to initiate the faster time warp. Also in the patch notes is updated detection arguments for recognizing when an aircraft is landed. Now I haven't had that long to play around with this yet, but I'm hoping that this might be the fix for trajectory lines disappearing from the map screen during flight. I'll need to play the game more to see if this happens, although if you've had experience of this then let me know in the comments down below. And of course, if you haven't already then don't forget to hit like and subscribe to help support me in my eternal struggle against the algorithm, and of course that you have all of my latest KSP2 content delivered straight to your sub feed. As well as bug fixes, this patch includes optimizations. Now, my computer is probably not the best to compare yours to, as it's pretty much as beefy as you can build. My full specs are in the description, but the important aspects are that I have an RTX 4090 graphics card and a 5950X CPU with 64GB of RAM. But even with this beast of a machine, I initially struggled to get decent frames with more complicated craft. Here's probably my most worst performing machine I've built so far. It's my air-launched aircraft and air-launch carrier. Unfortunately, I don't know what the specific frame rate of this was when I was flying it pre-patch, but I can assure you that it does run much better now. Although we are still a ways away from the performance we can get from even heavily modded Kerbal Space Program 1, with some users reporting that this patch has almost quadrupled the frame rates for them, I'm optimistic about future patches improving things even further. Saving and loading have had some improvements. The game now auto-saves when landing on a celestial body, when entering a new sphere of influence, and when entering or exiting an atmosphere, which is a very welcome addition. An issue has also been fixed that prevented workspaces from appearing in the load menu, which has happened to me a few times. And another fix to the load menu are the rubbish low-res thumbnails. Before, good luck identifying the differences between these crafts based on the thumbnail image, but now the game saves an image of the blueprint of a craft as the thumbnail, making it much easier to quickly identify workspaces. Some parts have had some buffs made to them. Rockets should hopefully be less bendy now, as joint reinforcement has had some upgrades to it, and the joint strength for engine plates has been buffed. It was identified by developers that for engine plates specifically, the joint strength was essentially 0. It was just missed during QA testing ahead of the game's early access release, I guess. So it's good to see that this has now been addressed. Vehicle lights have also received a buff, so now they provide, light a lot more than they did before. There are other fixes applied in this patch that are just nice. Not game-changing, but welcome regardless. One new addition is now probe cores have their own icon in the Kerbal flight portraits. Before, they would just appear as an empty seat, but now they've got a little circuit board type thing. Other fixes and improvements to the UI include improved escape menu user experience, one example being that you no longer have to press apply every single time you change something in the settings. Now, settings just apply immediately. When building crafts, the center of mass, thrust, and lift indicators are now translucent rather than opaque, which makes designing aircraft in particular much easier. But perhaps the biggest improvement for building horizontal craft in the VAB is that now the middle mouse button pans the Z-axis, making it much easier to work in the horizontal workspace. It now behaves a lot more similarly to Kerbal Space Program 1's Spaceplane Hangar. Honestly guys, there are so many more really great changes in this patch that I could go on. So I will. The devs have fixed an issue where ground textures were projected onto vehicles at the margins of the KSC grounds, fixed collision at the bottom of the mohole, so now Scott shouldn't have any more difficulties landing there. The maneuver node maker now seems much easier to use and manipulate when zooming in and out on the map view. We can now see our burn duration before starting the burn, fixed a bunch of bugs relating to the EVA packs not working properly, updated Kerbal walking animations, a bunch of part balancing, and honestly guys, just read the patch notes. This patch features so much more than any of us could have hoped for, and while there is certainly a long road ahead of us, the future is looking much better for Kerbal Space Program 2. One thing that we don't have in the game still is re-entry heating and thermal effects, but Nate Simpson did share an image of what they're working on with this, and I gotta say, those flames are looking pretty lit. Am I down with the kids now? No? Anyway, along with this picture, Nate stated that performance improvements and bug fixes will continue to take place alongside ongoing development of core features like re-entry heating, thermal systems, and other headline features on the roadmap. The devs can't yet predict which update will contain re-entry heating, for obvious reasons, as they are holding themselves to a very high standard of performance, according to Nate's post. He stated that as soon as it's doing everything we need it to do, in every situation in which it needs to do it, it'll be added to a future patch. I am super excited to play Kerbal Space Program 2 now that all of the most egregious bugs have been squashed. My next mission will be on Wednesday the 22nd of March, which sadly was filmed before this patch came out, but on the flip side, that means that you'll all have one more round of watching me suffer through bugs and Kraken attacks that hopefully won't be happening, at least not as much, going forward. After this mission, I asked you guys to vote on where I should head next, and the overwhelming majority of you voted Eeloo, the furthest planet from the sun, so I imagine that's where I'll go for Saturday's video, but who knows, the future has yet to be written. Kind of a profound note to end this video on, I guess. But yeah, thank you KSP dev team for pushing through what I'm sure was a rough few weeks. And of course, thank you to all the names on screen. They're my patrons and channel members, and it's thanks to their generous support that I'm able to keep on making all this content for you guys. If you want to join their ranks and see your name in lights on the left there, then you can click through to the Patreon card that's currently on screen or via any of the links in the description below. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Is there anything else that you'd like to see me do in Kerbal Space Program 2 in the next few weeks? Let me know. I'm always looking for ideas for future missions. So yeah, that's everything. Bye.